Welcome to the future. Thank you, all of you, for being on the cutting edge of it. This is as important a discussion as we can have in this country. It will affect all of your lives. It will affect your children. It will affect America's national security. And it will affect the role that we play in the world. Make no mistake about it. This is the cusp of a revolution. Economic revolution. Energy revolution. Security revolution. And health revolution. Yes, health. Because after all, what we're talking about when you're talking about reducing greenhouse gases is reducing things like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and mercury, carbon dioxide, all of which don't do justice to your lungs, to our children. I don't know how many of you know it, but the largest single cause of children being hospitalized in the United States in the summertime is environmentally induced asthma. And it costs us billions. Not to mention what it does to the quality of life of those families and those children. What we're talking about is reducing pollution. And traditionally in the United States of America, we've had a principle that the polluter pays. A particularly important principle in light of what has happened down in Louisiana. Now, ironically, we've been working very closely with some of these oil companies in the last months. And I want to tell you, they've acted in good faith. And they have worked hard with us to try to find a way to get a solution that meets all of our needs. And I believe that when we roll out a bill, and we will roll it out very, very soon, we are going to have a unique coalition. I want to speak to that in a minute, but let me just first put this in an historical context, if I can. You know, this is not a new discussion. And like a lot of things that happen in America, we're having trouble right now. And you ought to be concerned about it as individual American citizens. We're having trouble right now building consensus in this country of ours. We're having trouble making simple decisions that affect our future. We're having trouble getting over partisan politics and stopping the perpetual campaign. And I'll tell you, if I know anything, and I think anything is represented by the Tea Party or by anybody else who's angry, it is that Americans want Washington to solve problems and stop this adult political food fight. Is our single best opportunity to do that. Now, I know that tomorrow, I think, or later today maybe, you know, hundreds of you are going to be going up to the Hill and you're going to be starting to sit down with people. You got to be adamant tomorrow. You ought to be as angry as other people are. And you don't have to behave the way some of them do. But you ought to be as angry inside, and you ought to convey to people that this is the moment. 1931, not long before he died, Thomas Edison had a conversation with two friends. Guys called Henry Ford and Harvey Firestone. And they had a discussion about the energy needs of the United States. And Thomas Edison said, quote, "I put my money on the sun and solar energy. What a source of power. I hope we don't have to wait until oil and coal run out before we tackle that." Well, here we are in 2010. We're still having a debate about our energy future. Now, Edison was not an environmentalist by any means. But he recognized that oil and coal are finite resources. And he also recognized, as others have, that in order to maintain our standard of living, in order to remain competitive in the world, if we're going to expect to protect our national security, for instance, I mean, look at us in Saudi Arabia. We're sending $365 billion a year to the Mideast, to Venezuela, to Nigeria, and other places. Do you think that makes sense? $365 billion that could go to Texas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Massachusetts, a bunch of other states in the country, invested in America, creating jobs that stay here in America, that can't be exported? It's absurd that we are locked into this addiction where we have to send $365 to $400 million a year overseas in order to buy this black stuff that we bring over here to drive our vehicles. 70% of the oil we import goes to transportation. And some other things that we use it for. And then we say, oh my gosh, some of that money found its way to Hezbollah and to Hamas and to Al-Qaeda and is used to prop up a regime like Iran. Iran right now gets billions of our dollars, believe it or not. Here we are talking about putting sanctions on them, and we have to pay them for oil. So the fact is that we're doing something that just doesn't make sense. Now, if you have to do it, because there's no other alternative, that's one thing. But there are countless alternatives staring us in the face. Two of them, right up there, outside this hotel, electric vehicles. We produce the same amount of electricity at night as we do in the day, but we don't use it where people are sleeping. If you were to plug in your vehicle at night with the batteries that we have today, you'd be able to actually run your vehicle up to 200 miles, 200 plus now. 250, I think some vehicles are getting on a battery charge. You come home, plug it in, go to sleep, get up in the morning, and off you go. You don't fill up your tank. I have a Prius. My wife and I have a Prius here in Washington. And you know what? I wish it wasn't a pure American car. I'd love it. You know, Roger Smith in Detroit, General Motors, built a terrific electric car 15 years ago. And it was shut down. Shut down basically by oil. Because the idea of electric meant less demand for oil, and so the oil folks came in and pressured them, and they shut it down. So we lost millions of jobs in the end in that part of the world. UAW, a lot of people got hurt. Pipe fitters, steel makers, you name it. So we have to think, folks. That's what you elect people to do, is to translate thinking into action and try to have a vision about the future. Not just playing to the lowest common denominator of American politics and keep telling people what they want to hear, even if it isn't good for them. That's got to stop. This bill, I think, is a vision for the future.